waited all winter for this.
It's the biggest race we have all year long.
The icons of this sport have all starred on its biggest stage.
It's the great American race. Trust me.
I won the Daytona 500. I won the Daytona 500.
Pull them belts tight one last time, boys. Light the fire.
Big push coming now for Harvick. Oh, and around goes a couple cars. Priest upside down. He's barrel rolling through the grass.
You got plenty of money. Don't need that to keep racing. Is it worth the risk to keep on going?
Sure, to win.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to the Bump and Run podcast. I'm your host, Michael D.Y., joined by my best friend, Matt the Statman, Reilly. Eric Daytona Ron couldn't make it this week. He's tending to some things at home, but he didn't want to delay the show by any days because we have a big winner. Christopher Bell was the big weekend. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Hope you guys had yourselves a Christopher Bell type of weekend. And right now we are live on twitch.tv/Bump and Run Podcast. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Podcast available on all platforms every Monday night. Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and more. And on YouTube. So make sure you follow us on all platforms. Figure out where we are. But Matt, how the hell are you?
I'm all right, man. So I got a funny visual in my head. So like I consume a lot of podcasts. And like every once in a while, like you get used to the same, hosts or guests or, same producers or whatever.
Yeah.
And if someone's missing from the show, there's times where I'll listen in and it's like, oh, that guy's missing. Like, I'm not going to listen to this episode. And I just pictured like my dad is a big listener of ours. Like I just pictured him like signing in, logging in, listening and everything. And he's just like, oh, Eric's not doing this. I'm out of here.
I'm turning it off. I tell you what, my own mother would probably do that too, because she gets a bigger kick out of you two guys chuckling in the background and trying to figure out why you're making each other laugh and watching on YouTube. But then I think the NASCAR information. So I apologize to all the listeners. Eric will be back next week for sure. Just had some things to take care of. But Matt, how the hell are you? How's your weekend?
Good, man. I'm good, dude. So upsetting. So, like as you know, like I like the UFC. We'll watch. My wife loves it too. So, you already know the story. So we're on our way home from a birthday party on Saturday, and we had some chicken in the fridge that we had to use. So I'm like, oh, let's make some chicken parm, do a little bit of a nice Italian dinner.
I saw you making it. It looked great too. The little chicken cutlets were all flattened out perfect in the frying oil.
Yep. So did it right, breaded them all handmade and then, fried them and did the whole shebang, right? And so we're cooking and Steph's like, oh, we have a bottle of red wine down in the wine fridge down in the basement that we haven't touched. I was like, bring it up, let's go. Get a little pregame in before the UFC fight starts. So wine, like me and you have had this conversation before, like wine makes me sleepy. I'm not a wine drinker. I'm a beer drinker. Like I'm pretty much exclusively a beer drinker, but I enjoy wine every once in a while. Like the 2 or 3 times a year I have wine is usually on like Italian food night, So yeah. So I'm drinking it, enjoying, of course, enjoying myself. And I can't just have one, it's a couple glasses. And, I'm all excited for the fights. 2 of my favorite fighters are fighting on Saturday night already and everything. So we're watching the prelims and like the last fight on the prelims is happening. And like, I am dozing off. Like I already feel myself. So Steph's like, I'm not going to even lie to myself. I'm going to bed. Wake me up when Poirier starts fight. The Poirier fight starts. I'm like, cool, sure thing, right? First fight starts on the main card and I am out. So like I like jarred myself awake. I'm like, I can't do this. So I was upset. I missed them. I woke up in the middle of the night and checked to see who won. But yeah, man, we're getting old.
Now,
we're getting old.
Now pay-per-views, can you go back and rewatch them?
What's up?
Can you go back and rewatch a pay-per-view? Like, how like if you rent a movie on Amazon, you have 48 hours to watch it. Like, can you go back and watch a replay or anything? I
luckily didn't pay for it. We streamed it. So we streamed it. So like I found the fights. You can always find the fights on Twitter. Like someone will post the full fight from the legal, whatever. So I was able to watch the fights. But like, dude, we used to just a couple years ago, like we'd go to a wine fest and drink all day and then like go to the bar after, and it's just like, now, I get a couple glasses of wine on me and the day's done.
Well, you want to know what too? I know exactly what you're talking about because Bree's been drinking wine a lot lately too, where it's just nice to have a glass during dinner and whatnot. Where I get sleepy, man, and I don't know my limits with wine either. I think we've definitely had this conversation because I'm a beer drinker mostly. Like I'll drink liquor drinks, like when I'm out at dinner and I'm like, oh, I want to get like a fancy drink or whatever. But if I'm drinking, I know my limits with beer. I know when to stop myself. You know, I know when I should stop myself and maybe I'll push it a little bit, like shit like that. Wine, I can't judge it at all. I don't know when it's hitting. I don't know when it's been too much. I don't even know how much you're really supposed to pour in a glass because I see people pour like this much, and fill the whole thing up. I fill it up too.
That's another problem too, is like you fill it up like it's water you're putting in the goddamn glass. And it's like, and like I enjoy wine, but like you said, like I don't know my limits. So like I'm drinking it, and like when I get wine drunk or even wine buzzed, I get happy. Like it's a fun drunk for me.
Yeah, you feel warm in your cheeks and whatnot.
Man, and it's like I get very talkative and like so like I was all giddy for a little bit, and then sitting down on the couch, switched over to the beers, and I think that switch over was what just crushed me. And I was just had a couple beers in me, and that was it.
I tell you what, though, 2 glasses of wine makes me sleepy, too, where you're, like, sitting on the couch and you're, like, closing your eyes, like, trying to wake yourself up. What you got to do, and this is what I do sometimes when I'm trying to stay up, to, like, say it's, like, a NASCAR race, it's a night race or whatever. Like, I'll do this during a truck race where I'll just set an alarm for 10 minutes from now, and I'll just close my eyes. And just go to sleep for 10 minutes. And then the alarm wakes me up. I'm like, all right, got a second wind. Go and get a water. And
a little power nap. Yeah. I should have done that. But it is what it's different when you're with people. It's just Steph and I. So I was like, I was relaxed and So anyway, got into the weeds there. But yeah, that was my Saturday night. And then yesterday, did the running around shopping and everything. And then, settled in for whatever the hell that was yesterday.
Well, it was a Phoenix race, so we'll talk about it. But first, we got to get to a little bit of NASCAR news. My weekend was super quiet. We didn't really do much of anything all weekend.
We talked about this last year, and probably the year before that too. Like this is the calm before the storm. This is like right before it's gonna start getting really nice out. So like this is like we're getting ready to ramp up to like the busy season again.
I thought it was ridiculous though. Yesterday, I was looking out the window and there was snow on my car. And it was like 75 degrees on Friday, where I'm like, this is just too much. We need to get through this winter thing. It's not great.
We're almost there.
But let's see. And you want to know what? That's the problem. That's the reason why Phoenix is so early in this schedule. It's a warm area. I saw your tweet this morning. I don't know if you want to bring that up, but I thought it was a good point.
We'll get to it.
But let's talk about a little NASCAR news. Not a whole lot to report on, to be honest with you. In fact, one of the stories I brought up, I don't even think is that relevant. But the first one, this is pretty relevant. Steve Phelps, president of NASCAR, so there's a possibility we see racing at Dodger Stadium. I don't know if that's going to be a points race or what. I'm just going to flat out say it. I don't want to see it. I don't. I'm like, the Coliseum was one thing. I don't know how you could put a track in a baseball field. It's like, you remember back in the day, they used to have all those dual purpose baseball fields with a football field in it. It always looked real dumb and janky looking, like
Ricky Williams on the Dolphins is running for a first down and he's getting tackled on the third baseline and there's dust and dirt everywhere. Yeah.
You got guys snapping their ankles in the fucking sand and shit. Oh man.
No, thank you. I'm with you, man. No, thank you. Like I saw that. And I'm just like a couple questions. It's like, okay, we've proven that we can put a track inside of the stadium, which is awesome. It's very handy that we have that type of information, that technology to be able to do that.
That option.
But like, it's the same market that we just tapped into 3 straight years, which is great. The LA is the second biggest market.
Yeah, second biggest besides New York City.
Biggest market behind New York in the country. So it's an important market, especially while we don't have Fontana up and running. Like we need to do something in that market, but a different stadium across town. I don't know. If we're gonna do that, let's go somewhere else, I guess is my thought process. But I see both sides to it. It just didn't. Let's just say it didn't do anything. It didn't tickle me. Like the news, was like, really? Like
it was like that's what we're doing. Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
I feel the same. Where like I don't hate it either. It's just like unnecessary. Where like, yeah, it didn't tickle my fancy. It didn't do anything for me either.
Like, I remember when they first announced the Coliseum, I was like, oh shit! Like if they could pull it off, that's a really cool idea, you know.
And that was the half the fun where it's like, how the fuck are they gonna pull this off? You know?
I know. But yeah, I don't know. It's just the same that we talked about after the Clash this year. It's like, okay, it was cool. I'm not hating on it. Like it did what it needed to do. I'm over the idea. Like, let's something different. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I know Sonoma's in a different part of California than the LA market, but it's still got to be close enough where it's like, I mean, you see pictures. I forgot to bring it up, but Sonoma got a repave in the offseason, and they completed it like last week or 2 weeks ago. I forgot to bring it up in the NASCAR news, but they posted a picture of the fresh asphalt and the beautiful hills of green grass. It's like, if you want to be in California, put it in Sonoma. Put Sonoma earlier in the year. It's a July race. Like I understand it's a little further up north, but
everything
like,
is dead though. Like every year, like go look at like pictures, like just Google like a NASCAR race at Sonoma. All you're gonna see is the dead grass all over the place. It's just because it's a dry part of the season there.
Yeah, it's too hot, you know. Like I would rather see Sonoma early on in the season. And I listened to a little bit of the teardown today, and they were kind of shitting on Phoenix too, rightfully so, because like you had all this momentum with the last 3 weeks where like you had Daytona, then you had Atlanta. So now you grab real casuals, and then Las Vegas where it's like, okay, I'm kind of seeing a little something different. Man, fucking give us a road course right after. I think that would have been perfect. You get every single discipline. And then I know I forget. I don't remember if they were upset or if they wanted Bristol Dirt back. I know we all love Bristol Dirt, our podcast group. Put Bristol Dirt right after that, and then like, man, that'd be a hell of a fucking 5-week race. Just to
Enough to hook everyone.
Everybody. Yep. That way, at least like. Then as the races go and there's a dud here or there, put Phoenix after that, where it's like, oh, that was a dud, but I saw enough early on where it's like, I'll keep watching, you know?
Or you can put Phoenix right in here, the trash can.
Well, you want to what? I don't.
We have differing opinions, which is
do.
going to make this episode fun.
And you want to what? I'm upset Eric's not here to argue back and forth too, because I know he's on your side of this opinion. Eric, also, before I forget, Eric said, fuck Chase Briscoe. The 43 had a great car and he fucked them. And
Eric would have had an all-time rant.
He really would have. But he's dealing with much more important things than a silly podcast today. But for real, that on the phone I talked to him. He gave me his pick for later on, and he goes, "Just tell him fuck Chase Briscoe for me." and I agree too, man. Some wounds never die.
I third that.
You know, if you
I had EJ on my fantasy team, so like
I had him on my fantasy too. I bought into Eric's hype because he had a great car practice.
He was right though.
He was all the Toyos. We'll get to that too. Yep. I forget where we even go. Oh, NASCAR news. Dodger Stadium. I say no, thank you. And then the last piece of news, and this was the one where I'm like, well, I have to have more than one story to talk about this week. Bobby Labonte is going to be returning to Joe Gibbs Racing as a consultant. Which I think is fascinating because Bobby's kind of never really left the NASCAR world. He's done television for years. He races his late model and stuff like that. So good to see him.
He's done some stuff in the NASCAR series overseas or whatever that series is overseas too. So like he like to your point, he's been around.
Yeah. So he's joining as a consulting role with Joe Gibbs Racing. Not exactly sure what that entails. But we've been covering those types of stories over the last few months, so I figured I'd bring it up. But that's all I have for NASCAR news. We could jump into the race weekend at Phoenix. Oh man, heartbreaker for Justin Allgaier in the Xfinity series.
Oh, dude,
he had that race in the bag. I only caught like half of the last stage. Got home from dinner and saw he was in the lead. I just assumed like, yeah, he's running away with it. I go into to talk to Bree And then I see you guys freaking out like, oh my God, oh, something big happened. I got to run in, and just having a tire go down, smacking the wall, and just destroying that car. What a heartbreaker.
Heartbreaking. And I feel like that's been happening to him a lot the past couple of years, where he should probably have, I don't know, 4 or 5 more wins on his career record, but something always happens, whether it's a late caution, a bad break, or something like that.
Yeah,
It sucks.
I feel like it happened to him in a championship 4 race not too long ago too. Maybe not last season, the season before. Something.
He's so good at Phoenix too, man, and it's like to have that happen, it sucks.
Yeah, so heartbreaker for Justin Allgaier. In the end, Chandler Smith picked up the win in the Xfinity Series, and then the Cup race. Christopher Bell, my boy, my second driver, gave me something to watch at the end there. He led twice for 50 laps. The race lasted 3 hours and 45 seconds. Interesting enough, 2 weeks in a row, 3 hours, almost even, and just a couple seconds after the race time.
Perfect length for a race, 3 hours.
It really was. I've been enjoying 3.5. Sometimes it's a little too long. 3 hours. We're right in that sweet spot right now. Yep. We saw 6 cautions for 40 laps. We saw 10 lead changes among 6 different drivers. And we're flying through the show without Eric, but it's time for the race grades already.
So I had a little nod to Eric. So I had 2 of our friends come over and quote some work for around the house, and they were bullshitting with me. I said, "Yeah, I got to go get ready for the podcast," and they're like, "Oh my God, we sometimes we'll tune in just to hear Eric's epic rants." I'm like, he usually, this was right before I knew he wasn't coming on. I was like, he's probably gonna have a good one today with Briscoe, but yeah, I mean the Eric rants are usually pretty classic. So. Yeah.
And if you don't know why we're so angry at Chase Briscoe, he was driving Eric Jones real dirty. Eric Jones was pissed off about it after the race. Apparently, it's not the first time. Whatchamacallit? It wasn't last week. It was I think it was in Atlanta. Chase Briscoe driving like a maniac too. Then wrecked Tyler Reddick at Bristol Dirt a couple of years ago. Like, the man is a menace on the track.
He is a menace. I don't know if it's just because, like, dude, when he was in the Xfinity Series, like, he was the man, you know, and there's just so much hype around him, and obviously he's talented. I don't know if it's just the pressure getting to him, where he's expected a little bit more out of his career up to this point, because this is his 3rd or 4th full-time season in Cup already.
This would be his 3rd full-time season. I think he moved up in 2021.
So, I mean, he's still got plenty of time to go ahead and prove himself, and a lot of it isn't really his fault. I mean, it's no secret on, SHR being behind the ticket there, but I feel like it might be pressure where he's just driving a little more reckless because he feels like he's got to perform better, which he kind of does.
And you want to know what, though? To his point, he is performing pretty well so far. He's sitting 19th in the points standings, which is the highest Stewart-Haas racing car. Last night, I actually brought it up to you guys where it's like, do you think Noah Gragson is the flagship car at Stewart-Haas Racing right now?
So far. I mean, where's let me see here. So yeah, Briscoe's 19th, and then Gregson's 26th, and if Gragson continues doing what he's doing, he's going to jump past him real quick.
Yeah, he had a 12th place finish yesterday in Phoenix, running top 10 most of the day. But Chase Briscoe, right there, Chase Briscoe got a top 10 too. So
Briscoe's decent at Bristol coming up here too. So I mean, for a dark horse, like for a value pick, depending on where he qualifies at, if you're putting together a daily lineup on like DraftKings or whatever, I would say Briscoe's one of those guys to watch.
Dude, can I tell you, I was so mad. I put up a daily fantasy lineup yesterday that, like, I had so many guys that were bound to make up tons and tons of points position-wise. Yeah. Austin Cindric, man, he fucked me. He was starting second to last. I was like, there's no way he finishes past 30th, gets in a wreck on lap, 6 or something like that. I was like, man, I couldn't catch a break. I won last week, and this week just fucking. I was close. I was close to the money.
I've won the last 2 weeks on picking the winner, just straight up betting on who's going to win the race. So I hit with Larson, I hit with Bell yesterday, but Larson I actually picked on the podcast. Last week I picked Chastain, but I don't know. It's just, if you're watching qualifying and practice, it's the last couple weeks. Those stats have been telling you who's going to win the race. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here at Bristol.
Dude, I was 35 points out of the money in this lineup. I had Austin Cindric that got me 3 points and Joey Logano that got me -4. Like if
Dude,
those guys,
you would have cleaned up.
yeah, if those guys didn't wreck out, like I would have had a great daily. But you want to know what too? There's probably a bunch of people that had those same 2 guys on theirs too. So you never know how it would shift and everything. But
That's true.
Heartbreaker to think about. But man, what's your race grade? Because I have a feeling I know what it is, and it's not near what mine is. So
Let me just turn around my hat right there. I hope it's not backwards with the reflection. Can you read it?
It's perfect. For people not watching on twitch.tv or YouTube right now, just 2 simple words: Phoenix sucks.
That's what is taped on my hat because that is what's in my heart. I might actually get it tattooed on my body somewhere so it's permanent because Phoenix sucks.
Yeah.
I gave the race probably a little bit better than what you would think. I gave it a C-.
Okay. That is better than I thought.
I think that is kind of just me being nice, but I hated this race, man. Like, I even told you guys yesterday morning when I woke up, like I texted you guys saying, like, I'm optimistic. You know, I think what we're going to have, and I was almost kind of right. Like, I think we're going to see like a dud of a first stage. I think we're going to see a second stage ramp up a little bit. And I think a third stage, we're going to see a lot of action. It's going to be great racing. And I felt optimistic and I was trying to lie to myself. I was trying to lie to you guys. And I was trying to get myself excited for Phoenix International Raceway.
Yeah.
And I almost tricked myself. And, you know, the race started and okay, give it some time. I said that the first stage was going to be terrible. I already knew this going into it. Let's just watch it. Oh, look, there's an accident. Maybe some stuff will get shuffled up. Maybe there's some action. Oh my God, we're seeing some action.
Yeah.
And it just like, it sucked. Like it sucked. Like there was 2 cars that could pass, Truex and Bell, obviously, who won the race. You know, he came through the field a couple times to win. But he had if you were paying, like I said 2 minutes ago, if you were paying attention, Bell had the best car all weekend anyway.
Yeah, he really did.
Just you saw a lot of guys that were running up front for 90% of the race until the race got flipped upside down, and then they got marred back in traffic. Chase Elliott was back there, but William Byron's back there. Larson didn't finish too hot. You know, once you got back there in traffic, like that was it. You were done. You were stuck.
Yeah.
And my bias to this track is at such a point now where like it would need to be an absolute banger of a race for me to give it anything above like a C- is like the new roof for me, the new ceiling for me with Phoenix. I hate it. I know people are probably fast forwarding if you're a regular listener because you've heard me say this every time Phoenix comes around for us.
Yeah.
And I'm just sick of it. And so, yeah, I gave it a C-. And like I said, that's just me being nice. We're on to Bristol, man.
You know what? I completely understand your point of view. Because I agree. Phoenix sucks. Phoenix is, if you've listened to this podcast for the last 4 seasons that we've done it, you know 2 things. You know we hate Phoenix and you know we hate Richmond, where they are, in my opinion, the 2 worst tracks on the schedule, right? Phoenix is the worst track on the schedule.
And it's not even close either.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but in the industry thinks the same thing.
Yeah.
If you listen to other podcasts, if you listen to what the drivers are saying,
they're agreeing.
Everybody hates Phoenix.
So they brought it up on the teardown, but I was going to bring it up regardless. Was it last season or 2 seasons ago? Jamie McMurray was on Door Bumper Clear, and he made a joke that there hasn't been a good race at Phoenix since 1989. And I think that's the year that Phoenix opened up. Even on the teardown, they brought up like, we don't think that there was ever really a memorable race at Phoenix besides like the championship ones. And those are only memorable because they're the championship ones, you know?
I listened to that because they, I forget if it was Bianchi or Gluck. One of them said, like, I went back and watched a random race from 2004, just picked a random race.
Yeah.
And that's even when the horsepower was more thinking, hey, maybe the lack of horsepower is what's really driving down the racing at this track. And that's not even it because the race sucked then too.
Yeah. And that's why I give yesterday's race a B-. because I went in with very low expectations, knowing that I don't like the product that Phoenix puts out on track. You know, I don't like those races. And I have to be honest, I didn't hate Phoenix. I thought it was a good race. Was it a great race? No. Was it as good of a race as Las Vegas last week? No. Was it as good of a race that we saw in Atlanta? Absolutely not. But for a Phoenix race, I thought it was good. And you want to know what? I feel like it's trending up. I feel like, so it wasn't a barn burner, of course not. Was it hard to pass? Yes. Dirty Air was horrible. It always is, because Phoenix is a short track. It's not a traditional short track where, like Martinsville, where you're beating and banging, but it's a smaller track. So Dirty Air is always going to be there. It's always going to be hard to pass, and it's always been hard to pass. So I kind of didn't expect to see much passing at all. So then yesterday, when I did see the passing I did with the Toyotas, I was kind of impressed. And again, maybe it's because now I'm on Team Toyota. My driver's a Toyota driver. I'm following the Toyota drivers more than I ever have, where I could enjoy those battles. So if I was a Chevy or Ford fan, I'd be looking at this race differently, where I'm like, yeah, it was absolutely dog shit because the Hendrick cars really couldn't do much. Trackhouse couldn't do much. Penske couldn't do much. Like, none of these other bigger teams really had anything for the Toyotas in the first place, you know? So I think that factors into it too.
You're probably right, where it was probably a decent race, but like I said, I'm
for
just
Phoenix. It was a decent race for Phoenix.
I also hold grudges, unfortunately, to my detriment. That's just part of my personality, is something that I'm trying to work on, but I do hold grudges. And just the fact that I've had bad experience, like me personally had a bad experience at Phoenix Raceway, and coupled with the idea that I've never seen a good race there, it's just, I can't see past those things anymore. And yeah, maybe it was a B- race. I just didn't see it that way, and I'll never see it that way. You know, it's just how I feel. You know, I know Gluck's poll, I just looked, 22,000 votes, 60% said no, not a good race. I know you like to pull up that other poll that has couple more options that I'd be interested in.
That's the Iceberg on YouTube. He puts a poll out with great, good, average, below average. So we'll see let me see what they said.
Yeah, you can that, and then I'll filibuster a little bit. There were some good moments in the race. Don't get me wrong. Like, that's why, like, I couldn't give it a D or an F, even though I wanted to. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I think I have one answer. Eric, who's not here, he had a good idea yesterday, and he's kind of been, if you've been paying attention to this podcast over the past couple of years, he's been pounding the drum of do the double yellow line rule in the dog leg, where if you pass below that, it's going to be out of bounds. I think that's a good step in the right direction as far as like, that dog leg would be tight. It would create a little bit of a break. It would have to create a little bit of a break.
Have to let off,
which obviously generates passing. And I think that would probably be a step in the right direction as far as fixing it.
I know everyone loves like the 5 wide, 6 wide, 7 wide restarts. I don't like that.
What is it for me? I don't care about it.
And like, even watching on TV, like, you have to zoom so far out. I don't know. I can't tell the roof numbers of half the cars. It's just pure chaos. I can't even figure out what position my guy is in. And then, I'm
on our home track of Pocono. Like, they make a big deal about the 5, 6, 7 wide on restarts. Yeah. I never cared for it.
I never cared either.
That's such a small part of the race where, like, it doesn't, and it's not really giving you that much of an advantage. You might get a couple guys here and there that make up some ground, but in the grand scheme of things, like, during the actual race action, I don't know.
I rarely even notice it, like, on restarts at Pocono and stuff like that. Like, in the grandstands, like, I never really noticed them going like that far wide out. Like, it just looks impressive on TV, and then they funnel back in before turn 1, you know? Right. So, like, I don't know. The Iceberg poll had 12,000 votes. 5% said bad, 13% said below average, 58% said average, 24% said good, and 4% said great. So
that's a little bit more fair. Yeah, that's a pretty good representation of where it probably was at.
And that's why I gave it a B- for Phoenix. I'm grading it on the Phoenix scale. Now, in the grand scheme of all the great races, yeah, this was like a below average race. But for a Phoenix race, I thought it was pretty good. I even went further back and I checked to see what I gave it as a score last year, and I gave it a C, but I was on the edge of giving it a B-. And I think this race was definitely better than last year, because last year we were talking about how it was a snooze fest until the end when all sorts of chaos broke out. I don't remember what the chaos was. I know William Byron came out the victor, but I thought like throughout the day there was interesting battles, and maybe I am biased because it was Tyler Reddick for the most part battling Denny Hamlin for a long time.
Admittedly, that's the other thing too. I was on the other end of that. Like I said a couple minutes ago, Chase Elliott running top 5 the entire race.
Yeah.
And then the race gets flipped upside down, and then he gets stuck and finishes 19th, where like, I always say this, and like, I feel like I stick to it pretty good, where I try not to let my driver finishing position affect the way I grade or look at a race. But that was it's just a little bit more of a thorn in the side of Phoenix. Like, God damn it, Phoenix, like another thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, I am very open by saying I'll probably never enjoy a Phoenix race, no matter how good it is, unless it's just too obviously blatantly good that you can't, see past it. But I don't know. At this point, it's just too far gone for me, man. I
get it. And I wanted to mention too, for any new listeners or anyone that doesn't know the lore of the Bumper Run podcast in Phoenix, our other co-host, Eric Daytona Ron, and Matt Reilly, they went out to Phoenix a couple of years ago to see a race. When was that? 2014, 2016?
It was right when Steph and I first started dating. So 2015, the fall of 2015.
Yeah, so it was Kenseth was out of the car. I know Eric was pissed about that because it was the week after Martinsville where he wrecked Joey Logano. So he ended up seeing Eric Jones's first Cup start because he was filling in for Kenseth, right?
And Dale Jr.'s final race, which was awesome for me. Final race win, rather, which was awesome for me.
Yeah.
It would be his last win, but
you were there, but getting
the war is, we've been to, leading up to that point, 2015, between Eric and I, we were at, a handful of different NASCAR tracks throughout the country, and everywhere you go, as a lot of you listeners know, you can bring beer into the track. It's one of the cool things about NASCAR is that you don't necessarily have to be a fan of NASCAR, but if you like having a good time, you go with your buddies who do like NASCAR, and you could still have a good time, because guess what? You can bring in your own beer, and you don't have to spend the outrageous prices. So we didn't know that Phoenix International Raceway didn't allow that, whether it's a local law or whatever. I don't give a shit.
I think it is a local law that they have to adhere to.
Still don't care. It's NASCAR, baby. So us, being the fans, we're out there. It's a vacation for us. We're there to see a race, and so we load up the cooler of beer, and away we go over to the Phoenix Raceway, which, by the way, when you're staying in Scottsdale, Phoenix Raceway is about 7 million hours away. Dude, it's right on the border of the desert. Like, it is so far away from Phoenix and Scottsdale, it's not even funny. It took us like an hour to get there of just nothingness. So anyway, you get there, and it's like we have this whole cooler of beer, and we had our seats on Rattlesnake Hill. The whole idea for Rattlesnake Hill was, we're gonna go up onto this hill, and we're just gonna drink beer all day, and we flew out there, so we didn't have a car to tailgate, so that was gonna be our tailgate. Get to the gate, and they're like, "Whoa!" Wouldn't let us in, so they put us in what was called beer jail, which was just behind a couple Jersey barriers. And they were like, you could either dump the beer out or go in, or we're like, well, we're not just going to dump a whole case of beer. Like, it was a whole cooler. It was more than a case. It was a whole cooler of beer. So we went to beer jail, drank, had a good old time, made a scene like we do everywhere we go.
Made some friends in beer jail.
We ended up getting on the local news, which, like, I don't know. I'll have to see. We'll have to see if the clip is still up, because I know
there was a news article. I tried to find it last time we talked about it, and I couldn't, but I found it in the past. I'll do a little extra searching.
Do a little searching. If you can find it, we'll retweet it out or post it on Facebook or whatever. But it's a funny little snippet, because they interviewed us on the local news, And, we were, pissed off about it, but having a good time at the same time. So anyway, that's like a personal little gripe of mine is that, it's NASCAR. You can't just say no. And then you get in there and the beer, you have to take out, they have a little bank in there so you can go take out loans so you can get money for beer. That's how expensive it is.
$15 for a pounder can. Maybe.
I think it's more than that. I kid about, obviously I'm joking about the loan part of it, but like it was like $18 for like a pounder. It's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, he didn't need to take out a loan. He needed to refinance his house.
Yeah. Yeah. Honest to God. Honestly, so like, yeah, I have a personal vendetta against that track. I know Eric has a personal vendetta against that track. And if you're within the sound of my voice, don't go to Phoenix Raceway.
I understand. And you know what? If I would hold that same vendetta too. A bad fan experience at a track would make that track dead to me too. So I understand. I just went in with very low expectations and I didn't mind what I saw. I thought it was a pretty decent race. I did what I said I was going to do on the podcast last week. I put my phone down. I didn't look at it except for when you guys texted me. I was off of Twitter. I listened to a little bit of the scanner. Just during commercials, I'd pull up MRN. And then before green flag pit stop or before like yellow flag pit stops, I would pull up the scanner just to see what the strategy was with Reddick and stuff. But other than that, I sat in this chair and it kept my attention the whole 3 hours and 45 seconds. So in my mind, it was a good race. I thought it was good and I give it a B-. But I understand anyone else where they're like, that was the worst race I ever saw. Because I could see that too.
It wasn't the worst race. That's the thing, is it wasn't the worst race I've ever seen. Dude, we gave, I think, a couple Fs last year, a couple Fs and Ds last year. There were worse races just last year.
I think that one Martinsville race from the spring
by Phoenix, that it just doesn't get the benefit of the doubt for me anymore.
No, and I get it. And I understand. I agree. I grade Phoenix on I expect nothing. So anytime I get like a little bit, I'm like, yeah, all right, that was a decent one. That was a good one, And you want to know what too? The more I think about it, we brought it up a lot last year. Not every race has to be a great race either. No. You need the bad race to make you appreciate the good race.
Thank you for saying that too, because I don't want to be the cliche NASCAR fan that's like, that race sucked, well, it killed our momentum, blah, 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 blah. No, like we've got a handful of really fun tracks coming up here from now really through the summertime. We've got a lot of fun tracks coming up. So I don't believe that it killed any type of momentum, and it's okay to have dud races. Listen, Bristol's my favorite track that we go to. It has been for as long as I could remember, and it probably will be, until further notice. We can go into a dud on Sunday, and I'd be like, okay, that sucks. It's a great track, but duds happen, whatever. Yeah. It's just my whole vendetta against Phoenix is why I just can't see past it. So
I get it, man. I get it. I don't hold it against you either. I don't want you to think like, oh, you had to like that race. Like, no.
Yeah. For the record, I don't believe Bristol's going to be a dud. I think Bristol's going to be fun as hell.
I hope it's fun. It's been a while since we saw a spring race on the concrete there. I'm hoping it's warm, and I hope that the tire, there's some tire fall off. The thing is, they are not running this new short track package at Bristol. They're running the regular, intermediate package that they've been using. I'm still waiting for a true short track like Martinsville to see what this package really does, because I don't know if the short track package in Phoenix, really, you know what I mean? Like, can you judge this new short track package on Phoenix where they call it a short track, but I really don't think it's a short track.
Not a short track. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, it's a slower intermediate, to be honest with you. Like, I know they're only doing like 140, 125 in between.
It's a mile track.
Yeah, exactly. It's a mile,
Dover now, but this is where it gets tricky. I don't want to get into the weeds too much because we got more to cover, but like Dover, we've both been to Dover. That race is like a short track.
Yeah.
Because of the banking, though. It's still a mile, just like Phoenix, just like New Hampshire, but it races like a short track because of the banking.
And they're going to run the regular package at Dover, too, because of the banking. That's why they're running it at Bristol the same way, too. So, like, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. I don't want to get into the weeds about packages because I really don't know. I'm not an engineer,
Right.
What I saw, I thought it was all right. I still have the jury out for short tracks. I have hope for Martinsville and Richmond and of course Bristol. Just in general, I hope it's a good race this week. But how about your checkers and wreckers? Well, hold on. Without Eric, it throws off the whole flow of the show.
3 wide for the lead. 1 lap to go.
It's this week's checkers and wreckers.
You almost forgot the imaging, man.
I know. So what's your checkers and wreckers for the weekend?
So for a little peek behind the curtain, when Whitey does the outline of the show, and he keeps his his grade in there, his checkers and wreckers, and then I just delete it out and put my own in so I can have it in front of me. So I know going into the show what Whitey's grade in checkers and wreckers is. And Whitey, we have the same checkers, and I didn't want to change it because yep. So we can have an open discussion about it, and kind of go off of it. So our checkers is kind of Toyota as a whole.
Yeah.
And I can give my reasons why, because they're a little bit different, I think, than yours, but it's probably a little same. So my checkers is Toyota because, man, they're ahead of schedule. Like, no one really thought this early into the season that all the adjustments that were made were gonna, like, everyone kind of thought that it would take some time.
Yeah.
It's taking no time. Like, they're killing it.
Can I stop you right there? It reminded me. So Alan Cavana was in with Larry Mack on Sirius XM on Friday. They had their whole episode was, if Toyota or Ford doesn't win this weekend, should they be worried? And they had Chris Gabart on, Denny Hamlin's crew chief. And he just flat out went, no, like, we're 3 races in. Why would we be worried? And right here, this is the reason why, because we're 3 races in and it shows this new body is pretty fucking good. So
yeah.
I just thought that was funny. Like, why would you even worry 3 races in? Like, it's really putting the cart before the horse.
It doesn't, because Toyota had easily the best manufacturer yesterday.
Yeah. And
I just think everyone's a little surprised on that, because it usually does take a little bit of time. I mean, look at Ford with their new body. I mean, it's taken some time for them. They have some of their flagship. I mean, dude, their main driver with never mind. I was going to say their main driver is Logano, and he's sitting, I believe, in 30th in points right now.
I would say that's their main driver, right?
Well, yeah, but Blaney is the defending champion, and he's first in points. So that kind of, it's null and void there.
Yeah, you know what's fucked up though? Like, and it's probably just because Joey Logano's been around so long. I put Joey Logano as the flagship Ford driver, and I forget sometimes that Ryan Blaney is coming off a championship. It's fucked because he's a champion. He is worthy of the championship. He's just such a quiet, like, presence, I feel like, on track and stuff, where like he finished in the top 10. He finished 5th.
Dude, he came out of nowhere again yesterday. Like,
yeah, he's always there.
He is becoming that guy where it's like, holy shit, he's running top 5. Like, where did Ryan Blaney come from? He's going to finish 5th again.
Right?
It's like,
but for so many seasons, he was like, oh, is he going to win this season? He gets 1 win, maybe. Like, he's still, I don't want to say an afterthought, but he's not at the top of my list for Ford right now.
And he should be. He should be. You guys. What's that?
And he should be, though. He should be at the top of the list. He's at the top of the list of the point standings right now.
He's going to be there again this year at the end of the year. He just is.
Absolutely.
Like, he's so consistent, and consistency gets rewarded in our sport more than anything else. And so he'll be there again. I have no doubt. There, like, so far, there has been no championship hangover. I mean, we're 4 races into the season. He's sitting first in points. I brought up this stat. This is via the teardown with Jeff Gluck and Bianchi. I sent it to you guys this morning, but I know you listened to it. Is an interesting tidbit is that 4 of the championship drivers from last year in the final 4, 3 out of the 4 have won a race already this year, and the 4th one is Blaney, who's sitting first in points.
Yeah.
So everyone picked up pretty much right where we left off from last year.
Yeah, and we just have 2 new car bodies, and we're seeing what that's all about. So it's pretty exciting. I'm really excited about this season so far too. So
it's so much fun. That's why I'm not going to let, like, what I saw yesterday drag me down too much, because, like, It's cool. Like, well, it happens. Like, let's move on. Like, it's Phoenix is just the speed bump, and then we just keep it moving.
Mm-hmm. But what else about the Toyotas this week that caught your eye besides just the body and everything?
And just like the handling, they had the speed, and like it's what we've heard the first 3 weeks of the season. It's either like teams are either giving up the handling to get the speed or giving up the speed to have better handling. And it's just kind of been this tug of war for the first part of the season. It's either, you're either handling or you're speed, but you're not getting both. And I don't know, I saw the 19 and the 20 yesterday pretty much have both.
Oh, yeah.
So,
it was interesting too.
Just been super impressed with them.
It was interesting too during practice. Like that was the big thing. Everyone was talking about how poor the handling was with this package and the packs and stuff. And I didn't really hear much about that after the race. I'm assuming it was just as hard to drive them though. Did you hear anything like that in like any post race or anything like that?
No, I didn't get to watch a lot of the post race, but I mean,
Fox doesn't even give us like a post race. They gave us like 3 interviews and that was it.
That does suck because there's nothing like watching, even if it's just a half hour of just like unwinding after the race to get everyone's reactions and like I can find it on Twitter later in the evening. But
I just went to SiriusXM, listen to their post race coverage because at least they have interviews and stuff like that. And some hilarious calls that there was a call that yesterday. This guy talking about Toyotas. He's like, man, those Toyotas is scaring me. That body's quick. Oh, it's got me quivering. It was a hysterical call. But
I really regret not giving my checkers to Toyota.
But here's
that guy was clearly lubricated during the race.
Absolutely. But here's the thing. He's not the only one because I was listening to the morning drive. And they did the short track package test at Phoenix in the off season, and the morning drive they were talking about Chad Knaus after the test. He goes, Toyota has it figured out, like, yes. And like his eyes were big. They're like they know what's up, So like. I don't know what they figured out in the wind tunnel and figuring out this body, but it was fantastic on Sunday.
Man, I mean, like I said, if you watch practice and qualifying, like you knew C. Bell was going to be the guy to beat, and even when he was back in like the mid-teens for a lot of the race before he really started making his march up to the front, it's like I had no doubt in my mind that he was going to be there.
Yeah,
he had too good of a car to be hanging out back there. It's just they had to work on it a little bit, get the right adjustments, and away they went.
You said it on set, or was it Friday? It was a Friday practice, right? You said it on Friday after practice, you go, I'm confident in Bell like I was confident in Larson last week. You bet money on Larson last week. In real life, you put money down on Bell this week and you won again. You want to know what's too crazy? I don't know why any of us didn't pick Bell for this race last week on the podcast, because like usually he's a go-to for the short tracks for at least one of us. And man, fucking, he was lights out, but he wasn't the only one. And that's why I also gave Toyota my checkers as a whole, because it wasn't like he went out there and led 160 laps. No, he led twice for 50. Ty Gibbs led for 57 laps. Reddick and Denny both led for 68 laps each, and Truex led for 55. The only car that led besides a Toyota was Todd Gilliland in a Ford.
And that was because of a pit cycle.
And that was during green flag pit cycles. Now, he held on to it for a while, hoping for something to happen. And I think it's funny, too. Todd Gilliland is just putting record numbers up for lead laps for Front Row Motorsports this season.
Garbage laps too.
Yeah, but like I love it at the same time. He's getting his name and sponsor exposure.
Right there, yeah, for sure.
But yeah, like Toyota as a whole is dominant. Fuck Chase Briscoe, because Eric Jones had a great car early on too. He was running well. The only Toyotas that didn't run well on Sunday was Bubba and John Hunter Nemechek. I'm not exactly sure why those guys were struggling as much as they were. I think it was mostly because of qualifying position. They were kind of stuck in the back. And here's the thing too, that I found fascinating. They kept talking about it on NASCAR radio. Toyota, all the drivers went with different setups. So it wasn't like every single driver was running the same setup and it was just lights out fast. They all had different setups. They were all just that strong, and that's scary.
That's the thing too, is like Bubba had with the 5, 10, 15, and 20 lap averages, like he was in the top 5 or 10 for all of those categories. I threw him in my fantasy lineup this weekend because I was confident in him. He just, like you said, he just got kind of marred back there and just never.
Yeah.
I think he was caught up a little bit in some of the bullshit in the back too. But yeah, I mean, he was another one who had a fast car leading up to the race as well. So like the Toyotas, they definitely had it figured out. Chad, when you make Chad Knaus nervous, like you're doing something right.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean that he's the guy. He's the man. Yeah. He was the man for a long time, 7-time champion. So, but what about your records? What's your records for the weekend? Cause I kind of struggled myself trying to figure out a records, like one instance, you know?
So did I. And that's why if I had a drum right now, I'd be beating it. If there was a dead horse in front of me, I'd be kicking it. I'm joking. No, you know what? Fuck you, PETA. If my records is the idea that we're going back to Phoenix for a championship, and I'm pretty sure this was my records last spring when we went to Phoenix, is that we're going to Phoenix for the championship, and it's just like Dale Earnhardt Sr., Neil Bonnet, Adam Petty, everyone up there above. Please listen to me. Please let this be the last Phoenix race for a championship that we ever see. Please. I'm sick of it.
I agree. I thought this race was good. There's no reason why we're in Phoenix for a championship race. It is the most anticlimactic championship racetrack you could go to. So I 100% agree on you on that. And there might be some good news. I forget who tweeted it. I'm going to try to find it really quick. But someone is reporting that there is talks of going back to Homestead after this season for the championship. Let me see who tweeted that.
You know how happy I'd be? Because that's another thing that, you said earlier, there's a couple things that are for certain. If you've listened to this show long enough, we hate Phoenix, we don't like Richmond, and we absolutely love Homestead.
Absolutely, we do. Let's see. Let's see. Fuck.
There's nothing like you can't call it nostalgia because it was just a couple years ago, but just, hearing Rick Allen's voice as, welcome to Homestead Miami Speedway. Is tonight we're going to crown a champion, and it's just the atmosphere and the track itself and just everything about Phoenix Homestead. And it's a fun track. It's probably the best mile and a half we go to. Like, there was nothing wrong with it. Why did we get away from it?
Right.
There was nothing wrong with it.
I think again, they just want to keep things fresh and stuff. And that's the thing too. Phoenix does sell out every year,
Sixth straight sellout yesterday.
Yeah. So like you can't knock it with fan attendance and everything. I don't know how the fan attendance really was in Homestead. I think it was on the teardown. I didn't listen to the whole episode, but according to Jordan Bianchi, this is on NASCAR Reddit, Twitter. According to Jordan Bianchi, based on conversations with people, that Phoenix will no longer be the champion track in 2025, rather Homestead to return in its place. I hope it does. We've been saying it since we started going to Phoenix for the championship. Bring us back to Homestead. I thought Homestead was perfect. I would even say even Atlanta, but you want to, Atlanta's too much of a wild card. I want to see the championship race determined on a true oval, a 1.5 mile oval where like everything matters, because like Phoenix, again, track position. Once you get out, there's so much dirty air. It's hard to pass. Like Phoenix is just the perfect intermediate in my mind,
Or even if you want to like, man, and again, I don't want to go into the weeds because there's a time and a place for this. But even if you want to like eliminate like the championship race and have a championship round where cumulative points, matters for 4 drivers, and Phoenix is one of those last 3, just to placate,
Yeah.
We love good attendance at races more than anyone. We're always commending that. So yes, they do get good attendance. Those fans maybe deserve it, but like, so maybe put it part of like a round of 3 for the championship and include it in one of those races, but like Homestead have it be the final race or whatever.
Or yeah, I would even like it as the second to last race, the cutoff race going into the round of 4. I think that'd be perfectly fine. Because was it the cutoff or was Martinsville always the cutoff? And that was the second to last one.
Or maybe it was Phoenix, Martinsville, Homestead. I
think it did. I think it went Roval, Phoenix, Martinsville. And yeah, I think you're right on that. But I wouldn't mind seeing it as like the cutoff. I think that would make it even more interesting because now, like, I don't know, some of the guys are kind of holding back and letting the round of 8 guys just kind of go after it, you know? So I don't know.
I think Daytona Ron is onto something with making it, at least starting with, making that double line rule a thing.
I think so too. Make it cutting the dog leg, you know, like, I don't know, have off throttle time, you know, right. That's what you need. You need braking. You need braking zones to create passing, just like in road courses, you know? So I don't know. I agree though.
What's your records?
My records, I gave it to Toyota as a whole for the checkers. I give it to Chevy as a whole. And it was really the only thing I could think to really nitpick. A few of the Chevys, they qualified really well. But whether from that late caution with Denny Hamlin or just a lack of speed, like I know a lot of guys like Chase Elliott and William Byron, they got flipped and everything. But even like Larson didn't show a lot of speed. Last week we were talking about Ross Chastain, thinking he would come in and dominate. Usually he runs really well. He was the lone Chevy in the top 10, and it was due to pit strategy. Like he had to save gas to keep himself out there and run for the top 10, and he got himself a 6th place finish.
At least something makes the Phoenix Championship race interesting. It makes it interesting because at least 1 or 2 of those Hendrick guys is going to be in the championship 4.
Yeah.
So like, okay, now they know what setup not to bring, right?
Yeah.
So like,
oh yeah,
is that an advantage, or were they so far off that like they have no idea because now Toyota knows exactly what to bring, but like things change throughout the season, teams catch up. So like, the kind of strategy kind of plays into it already. Like we have a little bit of a storyline for a championship that's not going to be played out for another 9 months.
Yeah. And it wasn't just Hendrick Motorsports that had problems either. We only saw 4 Chevys in the top 15, and 3 of those Chevys were from 15th, 14th, and 13th place.
Yep.
You know, like that's not what we expect out of Chevy. And you know, so like, yeah, that's all I could really There wasn't a single moment or anything that stood out to me. So yeah, that's it. That's all I got for Phoenix. I did. Sorry, storylines besides the Toyotas. But I'm gonna start with 2nd place Ty Gibbs. I was really impressed with his run. That win's coming. It's coming fast.
We said it. We said in the beginning of the season that win's gonna come. He's gonna win this season.
And then the RFK guys had a really strong finish. Chris Buescher finished 2nd. Brad Keselowski finished in 4th. A little bit of strategy got them there, but they were still there in the end. Especially after the last couple of weeks they've been having. Those 2 cars in particular had a real rough start to the season. So hopefully this is the bounce back, because like, if you listen to the last couple of years, we're big RFK proponents. We're pulling for those guys too.
And another thing too, like, look what's coming up, man. There's Bristol's right in front of us, and both of those guys run really well there.
I know Chris Buescher said he was really excited to get back on concrete for the spring race, so that might not be a bad pick for the winner. Definitely a daily fantasy. We'll see how practice goes this weekend. Let's see. Ryan Blaney came in 5th. We kind of talked on him. He had a solid top 10 day. Real quiet though. Didn't really contend up in the front for the leader.
Really quiet with him.
For
this
real
is how
though.
he does it, man.
It really is. And then Ross Chastain, he had a solid top 10 finish, but he didn't have much of a car all day long. I know we were texting back and forth like, man, when's Ross going to make a move? He was kind of just stuck in like 15th, 16th place for much of the day. But you want to, I have to bring that up though. I thought that was an interesting aspect of the Phoenix race too, that I forgot to bring up during my race grades, where we had a couple of guys. Martin Truex Jr. was staying out, waiting, hoping for a caution while he was leading. He was on a different pit strategy. The RFK guys were on a different pit strategy than Ross Chastain was. There's 3 different pit strategies going on in the top 10 in that third stage, and that kind of kept my attention too. I know you said you had some family over at the time. And I remember you came back and you're like, what's going on? And I broke it down for you because I was like, that was what I was interested in, where I was like, oh, these guys pitted. So like, these are the storylines, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I could see like I said, like if you don't give a shit about, you know, fuel strategies and stuff, like, then that's not going to be interesting for you either. So like, I get it.
Dude, I'm a huge fuel strategy guy.
But to jump into that too, it's tough even, you know, so I don't know that I'm just trying to bring up more reasons why I thought it was actually a pretty decent race in the first place. Let's see. Martin Truex Jr., he finished 7th. Just said he had a pit late because he was on a different strategy than them all. His last pit was like 197 when there was guys pitting at like 219, 216, right around there. So, and then Michael McDowell, 8th place finish. He was a non-factor all day long. I'm not exactly sure how he got in the top 10. I'm thinking he was an early pit guy and then was able to stay out during those cautions. Just kind of cycled his way to the front. And then someone I was impressed with, we talked about him, 12th place, Noah Gragson. He wasn't the top finishing SHR car. That would be Briscoe in 8th, but I thought Noah ran a really great race, the last 2 weeks. Super impressed with that 10 car, especially since, Eric Almirola, he always ran well at these types of races, Phoenix and, New Hampshire and stuff. But other than that, we really didn't see much of that 10 car last year, or really the season before that. So it's pretty interesting to see.
I know we brushed up on it a little bit last week. We touched on it. And again, I want to touch on it again, how impressed I am with Gragson. And we all know the talents there, right? Like if you've been paying attention for the past 5 years, you saw what he was able to do in the Xfinity series. Like the talent's there. He's just been a little bit immature, which is okay, you know, in pockets, but gets into a little bit of trouble last year, loses his rides, had to step away and go get right. And it's not unlike what happened with Larson, where got into trouble, had to step away from the game, you know, and then, you know, once you go through the program and you rehabilitate yourself, you come back a better person, a stronger person, and a more focused person. And it's kind of what we're seeing out of Gragson right now, where he seems focused. He seems like his head's in the right spot, and you love to see it. And he's a fun, like we've been talking about it for a couple of years now. He's a really fun personality. Yeah. And he's the exact type of personality that NASCAR needs to be a superstar in our sport. And although he's not a superstar yet, I think he has all the potential in the world to be one. It's just the SHR equipment's kind of holding him back right now, but he's making the most out of it. And it's fun to see. I mean, I'm strictly from a 30,000 foot view and a fan of NASCAR as a whole. I want to see Gragson do good, because the better he does, the more of a household name he becomes, the more people get to see his personality, and it's a fun one. So.
It's good for the sport. His personality is definitely good for the sport. I totally agree. And I agree with what you're saying too, where it seems like he's more focused on the track right now, and then he can let the personality go. Like, I feel like he was a little personality first for a while there. You know what I mean? I think it's really interesting just to see the development in SHR right now. Another interesting piece, though, I believe this is the last year of their Ford contract.
Yes.
I know that was brought up. I didn't bring it up in the news because it's all speculation, but there's speculation that Honda might join NASCAR in the coming years. Now, it's going to be several years before we see Honda. It'll take at least 2 or 3 years for approval of bodies, and they have to have an engine and all that stuff. I don't think any of that's happening right now. So I don't think SHR is waiting for Honda. But
they even said, like, Honda could announce tomorrow that they're coming into NASCAR, and the soonest it would be is 2026. That's how long it takes, to your point that you just said. So we'd have to ask our resident friend of the show, Robbie Sheree, what his feelings if SHR went to Honda, because he's a huge Ford guy, obviously. And when SHR went to Ford, he was super excited about that. Could you imagine? I want to get Sheree, when you get to this part, because I know you're going to listen, give us your feelings on a hypothetical situation, what you would do or what you would say if SHR went to Honda.
I wonder what happens in the next season though. Like whether do they try to find a different manufacturer? Or they just stick with Ford, just to see like, because SHR is not afraid to bounce around either, looking for performance, and Tony's upset with the way they're performing right now. So I don't know. It's gonna be an interesting storyline to watch throughout the season.
Toyota tapped out. Like, do they not want to take on another full roster like that?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I feel like Toyota expands slowly and very calculated.
Yes.
So I don't know if it's not in their plan, but who knows though? Who knows?
If I had to guess, I would say that SHR is going to be back with Ford.
Yeah, I would think so too, or go back to Chevy.
Crazier things have happened. They can go back to Chevy, and
that's the thing, because Legacy was a Chevy team. Chevy lost a team. Ford's been pulling out of kind of the truck series and the Xfinity series over the past couple of years. We noticed it with just like Ford development drivers and stuff. Not a lot of landing places for anyone anymore. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to watch throughout the year. It's just something I thought about while talking about Noah Gragson, though. And then some of the guys that had a little rough day. Joey Logano, he got wrecked out by John Hunter Nemechek. He's not happy with John Hunter Nemechek at all. Something interesting about the broadcast I saw, though, someone mentioned it. What's the deal with not having interviews at the infield care center? It was legitimately a Bob Pockrass cell phone video this time, and I noticed it last week. We didn't get a couple interviews.
I noticed it too. And what they'll do is they'll just come up with like a little blue graphic on the side over under the pylon with all the names, just saying like released from the care center, and just to let you know, hey, they're fine, they're out of the care center, but there's no interviews. So I don't know what that's all. I don't know. Is that a Fox thing? Is that a NASCAR thing? It's probably a Fox thing.
I think they might be down a pit road reporter right now. So I don't know. I thought it was interesting. It was something I didn't even notice the little blurb you just said where they say when they've been released. So
it was 5 seconds. It was up. Hey, whatever. Austin Cindric has been released from the infield care center, and it's literally just like it's up. And then it's gone.
That's it.
Just to let you know that he's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I look forward to those interviews just to see like the reaction to it.
Dude, you get some golden interviews when guys are getting out of the infield care center. So I don't know.
And then Eric Jones was frustrated with the way Chase Briscoe raced him. I'm also frustrated at how Chase Briscoe races everybody. Some wounds never heal. Fuck Chase Briscoe. That one's from me, not from Eric, but he echoes it too. So, but that's all I have for the race notes for this week. Do you have anything else to add? Anything that I think I missed?
No, I'm excited to get to Bristol, man. I really am. Just genuinely, not even have anything to do with Phoenix.
Yeah.
I'm excited to get to Bristol. It's my favorite track. So
I'm excited for NASCAR, man. I know last season near the end we were all struggling a little bit, but I've been rejuvenated. I'm excited about this season. I'm loving the podcast. I'm feeling great. I'm looking forward to Sunday, and it's only Monday night.
I did have something, and it was part of my records, but I never landed the plane to get there. And we're going to stay on Phoenix for just a second, if that's okay.
That's fine.
But it kind of has to do with what you just said about, the season being long and towards the end.
Oh, yeah. I wanted you to bring this up. Yeah.
So with the season being long and just like, it's all of us, you see the drivers talking about it, and a way where I think another way where we can fix Phoenix, and admittedly, this is not an easy way to fix Phoenix. It is not probably realistic, but it's what I think would be a fix. So it starts with it all comes down to the season being too long, right? Like we've talked about this on the podcast before, but like what if we started the season in March and ended it Labor Day weekend? It's a perfect length of a season. It allows every track except for the crown jewel tracks to get one race, which would drive up attendance for some of those tracks that don't have necessarily the best attendance, which are few and far between. Most of these tracks now are getting really good attendance, but still there's some out there that can definitely benefit from having just a solo race. it gets out of the way for football season because there is a big crossover between NASCAR and football season there. And I mean, I'm as big of a NASCAR fan as making a podcast on a weekly basis. But when football season rolls around, football almost becomes it almost gets my attention over NASCAR, only because we've been at NASCAR for so long, and football is the new shiny thing in the fall.
It's fresh. You're excited because it's back after a long wait. Yeah.
Like season, the NASCAR season's been going on for 7 months. So it's like, okay, so to get all that. And then that also eliminates the idea of having to go to Phoenix twice a year too. So it also opens up. And so to land the plane finally, it also opens up the possibility to move the championship race around. The reason why Phoenix is our championship is because it's one of like maybe 2 or 3 tracks across the country that have decent enough weather in mid-December where you don't have to worry about, snow, cold, whatever affecting. That's why Phoenix is our championship race. It's why the Homestead was our championship race for a long time. It's why Atlanta before that was the last race of the season for a long time. But if we're ending the season Labor Day weekend, that opens it up to essentially every track there is, because
you could rotate it to every single track.
Every track, any track you want. I mean, imagine a scenario where, some people wouldn't like this, but imagine a scenario where Pocono is the championship race. Imagine a scenario
who would love Pocono to be the championship race?
My liver?
Denny Hamlin.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
that would be the year he would finally get a championship.
Yeah, so. You're right. Or like, Dover being the championship race, New Hampshire being it opens it up early September. It's still great weather across the board wherever you go. Yeah. So it just opens up the possibilities. And again, it drives down the length of a season, which is great for the drivers, gives them a longer off season. It drives down costs because now we're running less race. It drives down costs for the teams. It's all about money, right? It's always all about money. The everything. It always leads to money. Why not? But that's also a double-edged sword.
That's
with money.
The reason why it'll never happen.
Yep. Yeah. That's why it'll never happen, because the TV partnerships will not allow it to happen because of all that revenue that's coming in on a week-to-week basis from the races.
They need that programming,
and the sponsors.
Yeah, because does NBC have daytime games? They only have Sunday Night Football, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so
they have daytime college football games, but
but that's what they fill up their NBC schedule with for the most part is NASCAR racing, while everyone else has football. Like that's the competition they're trying to push,
Yeah.
So, whatchamacallit? Yeah. But yeah. No, I totally agree. I would love for the season to be shorter just because it's a fucking grind, and I would love to see the championship race just go to other tracks. But like you said, mid-November, there's only a handful of tracks that are warm enough to be there. Even Atlanta, it could snow in Georgia in November, I feel like I saw that news story a couple of years ago. A FedEx truck overturned in Atlanta because of the snow, But that's all we have for this race, except here on the Bumper Run Podcast. Everyone loves to talk about the winner, except we barely touched on Christopher Bell this week. The winning manufacturer was the real heavy storyline. But here on the Bumper Run Podcast, we love to talk about the loser of the race, and that was Austin Cindric. He wrecked out on lap 7 after Derek Kraus went for a spin. He clipped Cindric, and Austin Dillon T-Bone Kraus. Somehow Cindric was the only car that didn't make it out of that wreck. Austin Dillon and Derek Kraus finishing laps down, but they did finish the race. Thought that one was interesting. And then, like you said, we're on to Bristol, baby. Trucks on track Saturday night, 8 p.m. on FS1 for the Weather Guard truck race. Cup on track, 3:30 on Fox for the Food City 500. Practice and qualifying Saturday, 5 p.m. on Saturday. And to go over our picks from last week, Eric picked Eric Jones. He got him 13 points. Matt, you picked Ross Chastain. He got you 31 points. And I picked Tyler Reddick. He got me 46 points. Since Eric isn't here, he already told me his pick, and he's picking first. So he gets to pick one James Dennis Hamlin. We'll see if he could get it done in Bristol. How about you, Matt? Who are you going with for the first race on the concrete in the spring that we've seen in years?
So you said it earlier in this show. No one picked this guy last week, and I don't know why, because he tends to run pretty good at Phoenix. No one picked him.
Yeah.
He ended up winning the race.
Yeah.
I'm not making that mistake 2 weeks in a row. I am taking the hot hand of Christopher Bell.
All right. I like it. I like it. I don't know who to pick, honestly, because
if you want a safe bet,
so
the 5 or the 24.
My safe bet was gonna be William Byron in the 24.
Yeah.
I was gonna go with him. After seeing the Chevys at Phoenix, I don't know, but we're not using the short track package at Bristol. And when you on short tracks, I have two go-tos, Christopher Bell and William Byron. So I'm going with the second one. And we will see what happens. We're 4 races into the 2023 season. Your playoff picture so far: William Byron, Daniel Suarez, Kyle Larson, and Christopher Bell all locked in to the round of 16 thus far. We will see, can James Dennis Hamlin get it done in Bristol? He won there in the playoffs last year. He beat your favorite drivers. Can he do it again in the spring? Will Christopher Bell go 2 for 2 2 weeks in a row? Or will Slick Willie Two Clocks get himself? Does Bristol do a sword? Is that what they do down there? We will find out.
Slick sword swinging Willie. Doesn't work like Slick Willie Two Clocks.
We'll work on it throughout the week. We'll workshop it between us. But we will find out this Sunday, 3:30 on Fox, the Food City 500, and we will break it all down for you once again next Monday night. For Matt the Statman Reilly, for Eric Daytona Ron, who couldn't make it tonight, we will talk to you again next Monday, and have a good night. Man, Eric not being here. I fucked up the outro just like I fucked up the intro. For Matt the Statman Reilly, for Eric Daytona Ron, I'm Michael D. White saying have a good night. The Bump and Run!
There it is.